I've been telling myself a story about my past for decades. I grew up with a critical parent, so I have low self-worth. I failed at that business, so I'm not an entrepreneur. It feels like my past is a prison and I'm serving a life sentence. Is there a way out, or am I just managing the symptoms?
Oh, there is absolutely a way out. And, well, what we're going to explore today in this deep dive completely shatters that whole idea of just, managing symptoms.
Okay, good, because it gets exhausting.
They're completely exhausting.
Yeah.
And what you just articulated, that feeling of being trapped, is the ultimate psychological trap that the Seth material actually dismantles. We're getting into the absolute core of Jane Roberts' channeled work today.
Specifically, Chapter 8, right, from the nature of personal reality.
Exactly. Chapter 8, and we're pairing it with the really profound identity mechanics from Chapter 10. Because to address this feeling of being imprisoned by your history, I have to give you Seth's most liberating foundational teaching right out of the gate.
Hit me with it.
Okay, so this is verbatim from Chapter 8. The point of power is in the present, not the past, not the future.
Not the past, not the future, just the present.
Right, and he immediately pairs this with a really radical shift regarding who we actually are. This one is directly from Chapter 10. You are not trying to become a better you. You are trying to become more of the you that you already are.
I have to say, hearing that initially feels like this massive relief, but almost instantly, my analytical mind just totally rejects it as a paradox.
House.
Well, I mean, if my current self, the one who feels stuck, or, the one who has the low self-worth or the fear of failure, if that self is built entirely out of the bricks of my past experiences, how can the present hold all the power?
Right, it feels contradictory.
It does. It sounds like I'm supposed to just, I don't know, pretend the past didn't happen. If we're setting a mission for you, the listener, today, we really need to clarify how this isn't just advanced delusion.
Yeah, we are definitely not talking about delusion or just pretending things away. The mission for today's deep dive is for you to understand the actual literal mechanics of how your present belief changes the physical and psychological influence of your past.
Changing the actual influence of it.
Exactly. And we're going to examine how releasing this exhausting construct that Seth calls the idealized self uncovers the brilliant natural self that has, well, it's always been intact. It's been there all along.
Okay, but I need to push back right away on the mechanics of this because, I mean, I understand the psychological benefit of reframing. Therapy does that all the time.
Right, right.
You look at a bad event and say, well, I survived it. But changing a belief today, how does that alter something that physically occurred, say, 20 years ago?
That's the big question.
Like, if a business went bankrupt, the bank took the money, the ink is dry on that, it's a printed book. I can read the chapter differently, maybe glean a new moral from the story, but I cannot change the text on the page.
See, that assumption right there, that the past is a printed book with dry ink, that is the primary illusion Seth attacks.
Really? The ink isn't dry.
Not at all. To understand how the present actually reaches back and changes the past, we have to completely deconstruct our whole model of time. And for this, we're pulling heavily from Seth Speaks.
Okay, so deconstruct it for us. What's the Seth model?
Well, we basically operate under this biological assumption that time is linear, a straight, unbreakable line moving from past to present to future. But Seth argues that time is entirely simultaneous.
Simultaneous, everything at once.
Yes. Every single existence you have, your childhood, your current moment, your future, even what we would call your reincarnational lives, it's all happening simultaneously in what he terms the spacious present.
The spacious present. I want to linger on this because, for me at least, it's a massive stumbling block. If everything is happening at once, why do I experience it as a sequence? Why is there a Tuesday followed by a Wednesday?
Because your physical brain acts as a reducing valve. It's literally designed to take the infinite data of the spacious present and string it out linearly.
So we don't just, like, short circuit.
Exactly. So you can walk through physical reality without tripping over your own feet. But consciousness itself is not bound by that linear track.
Right.
So the past is not a fixed objective record stored away in some cosmic vault that you occasionally visit. Your memory of the past is an active, creative construction happening now, in this exact microsecond.
Based on what?
Based entirely on the beliefs you hold in this microsecond. You hold the author's pen right now.
Okay, I'm trying to map this onto a better analogy because my whole printed book idea is clearly failing us here.
Yeah, we need to upgrade the analogy.
If it's not a book, maybe it's more like a video game environment, like something being actively rendered by a computer graphics engine.
Ooh, let's test that. How would that work in this context?
Well, think about a massive open world game. The entire universe of the game exists on the disk or, in the code all at once.
Right, the whole map is already there.
Exactly. But the game only renders the trees, the sky, and the buildings that your character is currently looking at. So the past isn't some pre-rendered video playing on a loop.
Ah, I see where you're going.
The past is raw code, and that code is being rendered into an experiential memory right now based on the software running in the present moment. So, if my present belief is the software, the graphics engine literally renders a past that matches it.
Yes, that is a highly accurate way to visualize it. The rendering is continuous and it's instantaneous.
It's happening right now.
Exactly. When you change your software, your present belief, you don't just change your attitude toward a pre-rendered video. The engine goes into the code and literally renders a different environment.
Wow.
You are actively organizing and reorganizing your past experience from the point of power in the present.
So to push the analogy further, what happens when someone is stuck in a trauma loop? Say someone has the belief that I am fundamentally broken because of how I was raised. Is that essentially a glitch in rendering engine?
Actually, no. It's not a glitch at all. It's the engine doing exactly what you commanded it to do.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Your present belief acts as an absolute directive to your nervous system. If your directive is, I am broken because of my past, your rendering engine frantically searches through the infinite code of your simultaneous history.
Looking for proof.
Exactly. It grabs only the data points that prove you're broken, and it serves them up to your conscious mind. It completely ignores the code where you are resilient, joyful, or independent.
It just blocks it out.
It literally filters out the light to maintain the dark room you've ordered it to build.
That makes me think of caching in software. Like, the brain just caches the traumatic memories so it can load them faster, confirming my bias almost instantly. I don't even have to think about it anymore. The environment just automatically renders as a prison.
And that is exactly why it feels like a life sentence. You are hypnotizing yourself from the present moment.
Right.
But when you stand in your present point of power and alter the command, when you actively change the core belief, you don't just, think positive.
You clear the cache.
You clear the cache. You force the engine to render new data. You literally change the biological and cellular impact of that past event on your physical body right now.
Okay, this brings up a really complicated aspect of Seth's philosophy from the unknown reality. Because if we are just rendering different parts of the code, that implies there is a fixed set of code.
And there isn't.
Right. Seth goes way beyond that. He introduces this idea of probable pasts. And I'll be honest, I struggle with this concept immensely. Are you saying there isn't even a single historical timeline to pull from?
That is exactly what Seth is saying. Every single choice you have ever made, every fork in the road, it branched off into a valid, probable reality.
So I didn't just live one history.
No, you did not live through just one historical past. Infinite alternate versions of your history exist simultaneously.
That is heavy.
It is. When you shift your present belief, you are not just reorganizing a single timeline. Here's where it gets really interesting. You are neurologically and psychically aligning with an entirely different probable past.
Wait, let me make sure I am grasping the absolute magnitude of this. Are we literally tuning into a different historical frequency? If a parent was critical, are you saying there is a probable past where they weren't?
There are probable pasts where the dynamic was different, yes. But more functionally for your daily life today, there are probable pasts where their criticism served as a catalyst for your absolute invincibility rather than your destruction.
Okay, that makes sense.
And this is where we have to look at the cellular level. Because Seth teaches that your physical cells possess what he calls precognitive and retrocognitive intelligence.
Retrocognitive intelligence. Okay, I need you to break that down. What does that actually mean for, like, a skin cell or a neuron?
It means your cells are not just blind, dumb matter reacting to some biochemical soup. Your cells are actual manifestations of consciousness.
So they have an awareness.
Yes. They are plugged directly into that simultaneous spacious present. Retrocognitive intelligence means your cells have access to the information of all probable pasts.
Wow, all of them.
All of them. So when you hold a toxic, limiting belief in the present, your cells physically align with the trauma of a specific probable past. And that manifests physically as stress, illness, or neurological blockages.
So my literal biology is tethering itself to a specific version of history based on my current thought.
Yes. The psychic energy of your present belief translates directly into the physical matter of your body.
That's incredible.
But when you boldly change a core belief, Your cells utilize that retrocognitive intelligence to drop their physical connection to the old, limiting, probable past.
They unplug from it.
They literally rewire their connections to draw energy from a probable past where you were empowered. You were drawing from a vast bank of unpredictable actions, pulling a new, structurally sound reality into your physical body.
So I'm not stuck with the story of the critical parent.
You are emphatically not stuck with it. The story of the critical parent, the version that destroys your self-worth, is just one localized rendering drawn from an infinite field of probable realities.
Just one option on the menu.
Exactly. You're only stuck with it if you use your immense present power to continuously demand that it define you. If you change your demand, you change the past.
You know, it almost feels dangerous to realize this. It shifts the entire burden of responsibility onto the present moment.
It does. It removes the victim card entirely.
Yeah. If time is simultaneous, and my past is this fluid, malleable code that I'm directing right now, then who on earth am I? It destabilizes my entire sense of identity.
Which is exactly what needs to happen.
Which I guess brings us to the second half of Seth's diagnosis in Chapter 10 of Personal Reality. If I'm not the sum total of my fixed past, who is the me making the choices?
That destabilization you feel is the exact necessary step to true freedom. Seth transitions from the mechanics of time directly to the mechanics of identity. He sets up a profound dichotomy between two versions of you, the idealized self and the natural self.
Let's dissect the idealized self first, because I feel like this is the one running the show for most of us. What is it made of?
The idealized self is a highly rigid, entirely artificial construct. It is completely composed of who you think you should be.
Ah, the shoulds.
The endless shoulds. It's built from parental expectations, cultural programming, societal standards of success. And Steph also points out traditional religious guilt, this deeply ingrained idea of the sinful self that constantly needs to be disciplined, punished, polished, and corrected.
It's the avatar we create to survive in the world, and honestly, it is exhausting.
It's incredibly draining.
I look at the people around me, I look at myself, and there is this epidemic of profound burnout. And it isn't just because we work long hours. The burnout seems to stem from the agonizing, continuous effort required to maintain this idealized self.
Absolutely.
Like, if I think I should be a relentless entrepreneur, but my actual inclination is to be a quiet researcher, the amount of psychic energy I have to burn to maintain the entrepreneur mask is going to eventually destroy me.
And it does destroy people, physically and mentally. The idealized self operates entirely on fear. Fear of not measuring up, fear of being exposed. Because it is inherently false, it requires constant 247 maintenance.
Which is why we're so tired.
Exactly. Now, beneath that heavy concrete armor is what Seth calls the natural self.
How does Seth define the natural self? Is it just like our base animal impulses?
Oh, it is far more profound than that. The natural self is who you are when you are completely unguarded, relaxed, and spontaneous.
So just being yourself.
Yes, but it's not just a personality type. Seth states that the natural self is your direct, uncorrupted connection to all that is.
Okay, we need to define all that is for the listener, because that phrase does heavy lifting in the Seth material. It sounds like a substitute for God, but Seth's definition is much more expansive, right?
Very much so. All that is Seth's term for the primary, infinite, and conscious energy gestalt from which all realities emerge.
So not a guy with a beard on a throne.
Definitely not an external deity sitting on a cloud judging you. It is the very fabric of consciousness itself, constantly exploring its own potentials. Your natural self is an individual, unique, and vital portion of all that is.
I love that.
Therefore, your natural self possesses a spontaneous, magical rationality. It naturally knows how to heal your physical body. It naturally knows how to direct your life toward joy and fulfillment.
You realize this directly attacks the entire modern self-help industry, right?
Oh, completely.
Almost everything in self-help culture is predicated on the idea that our default state is flawed, and we need to optimize, hack, and discipline ourselves into becoming these shiny, perfect beings.
Exactly. And that shiny, perfect being is literally just the idealized self in a new disguise.
Yeah.
Seth is so radical here. The work of personal growth is not to fix or upgrade the natural self.
Because it's already connected.
Right. You cannot upgrade a piece of all that is. You simply have to stop getting in its way. You have to stop suffocating it with all these rigid shoulds.
I see the theory, but I need to understand how this survives contact with the real world. To see the mechanics of simultaneous time, probable pasts, and the natural self in action, we really have to look at the life of Jane Roberts herself.
Yes, her life is the perfect case study.
Because the woman channeling this material didn't just passively dictate these philosophies, she struggled intensely with them.
She did, and her struggles are what make this material so accessible. Let's look at two specific phases of her journey.
Okay.
The first deals directly with reframing the past from the present point of power. Now, Jane grew up in a profoundly difficult environment.
Right, in upstate New York.
Yes, her mother was severely ill, both physically and mentally, highly demanding, and often abusive. Jane even spent time in a strict Catholic orphanage.
That's a lot of trauma.
It is. For a huge portion of her adult life, her internal narrative, the code she was constantly rendering was, I am a victim of my tragic upbringing. My childhood damaged me.
Which, let's be honest, is a completely illogical conclusion to draw from the data of her life. If we look at modern psychology, it validates that narrative entirely.
It absolutely validates it, but as Seth pointed out to her, it also cements the limitation. Seth actively guided Jane to use her present point of power to reframe this. He pushed her to alter her belief about what that childhood meant.
I want to be incredibly careful here because when people hear reframe a traumatic childhood, it sounds like gaslighting. It sounds like telling someone, oh, your abuse was actually a gift. Did Seth ask her to pretend it didn't hurt?
No, not at all. And that is the crucial distinction between denial and shifting probabilities.
Yeah.
Denial is looking at the past and saying, that didn't happen or wasn't that bad.
Which the body rejects.
Right, that is a lie, and the nervous system knows it's a lie. Shifting the probability means acknowledging the event but forcefully changing its trajectory in your present life.
How did she do that?
Seth led Jane to state, from her present power, I chose this highly charged environment for my soul's growth. The intensity of that suffering forged my profound independence. It developed my deep empathy, which is the exact mechanism that allows me to tune into consciousness and do the channeling work I do now.
Wow. Let's track the mechanics of what happened in her brain when she did that. She wasn't painting over the past. She was standing in the present, looking at the raw code of her orphanage experience and saying, I am no longer rendering this as a victim narrative.
Exactly.
She was basically saying, I am commanding my retrocognitive intelligence to align with a probable past where this exact event was the origin story of my immense psychological strength.
Yes. And because time is simultaneous, doing that in her present completely altered the biological effect of her past.
That's wild.
The energy that was previously leaking out of her through the trauma loop was suddenly available to her. She stopped the past from acting as a psychic drain. The trauma stopped hypnotizing her.
She retroactively changed the genre of her own life story. It moved from a tragedy to an origin story of a mystic.
Beautifully put.
And now the second phase of her life we need to look at deals with the identity piece, the idealized self versus the natural self. Because even after she mastered reframing her childhood, she fell into a totally new trap once the Seth material became famous.
This is extensively documented, particularly in the intros to Dreams, Evolution, and Value Fulfillment. In the 1970s, Jane was suddenly thrust into the spotlight. Thousands of people were reading her books and looking to her for answers.
I can't imagine that kind of pressure.
It was immense. And with that came a crushing, insidious pressure. She felt she needed to embody the proper psychic and the elevated, serene, spiritual teacher.
Ah, there it is. Her new idealized self. A superhuman construct of perfect wisdom, flawless health, and absolute serenity. The ultimate spiritual should.
Yes, and the toll it took on her physical body was catastrophic. She tried so hard to maintain that performance, viewing any of her natural human impulses as flaws that needed to be completely eradicated.
Because gurus aren't supposed to have flaws.
Exactly. The gap between this impossible, idealized self and her actual natural self became a literal war zone. Her body absorbed all of that psychic tension.
How did it manifest?
It manifested as severe physical exhaustion, rheumatoid arthritis, and literal immobility. She spent a month in the hospital struggling with a severely underactive thyroid, mostly deaf, essentially unable to move.
Oh my God. Her physical body literally encased itself in the concrete armor of her idealized mask. It's terrifying how literal the body's interpretation of our beliefs can be.
It is entirely literal.
So who was the real Jane? What is her natural self actually like beneath all that spiritual pressure?
Her natural self was gloriously human. She was incredibly funny, highly irreverent. She loved reading cheap detective novels.
Oh, way!
Yes. She drank beer, she smoked cigarettes, sometimes even while she was actively channeling Seth. She was earthly, spontaneous, and fiercely independent.
I love that. It is so delightfully unguru-like. We have this image of spiritual teachers sitting on mountaintops drinking green juice, and Jane is sitting in a rocking chair in Elmira, New York, smoking a cigarette and reading a thriller.
And Seth celebrated that. He kept trying to show her that her immense psychic abilities flow through her natural, quirky personality, not in spite of it.
So what happened in the hospital?
While she was in the hospital, her superhuman image finally cracked. She realized she couldn't maintain it anymore. She accepted her flaws, her quirks, her love of detective novels.
She dropped the mask?
Exactly. When she let the idealized self crumble and just allowed herself to be Jane again, her creative work started flowing effortlessly and her health began to respond. She stopped performing the shoulds and just allowed her natural self to spontaneously act.
This is incredibly inspiring, but I want to make sure you, the listener, walk away with practical tools today. We've covered massive theoretical ground simultaneous time, probable pasts, the rendering engine, the mask of the idealized self.
Yeah.
How do we take all this and apply it today in our own present point of power?
Seth's philosophy is ultimately practical. Let's break it down into two specific connected techniques that anyone can use today. Technique one is reframing the past from present power.
Okay, let's unpack this. I want to walk through this step by step. Let's use a hypothetical to ground it. Let's say you, the listener, have a memory of a business you started 5 years ago that completely failed.
Okay, great example.
You lost money, you embarrassed yourself, and your current belief, your operating software is, I am not an entrepreneur, I am bad with money, and I cannot take risks.
That is a perfect example of a localized rendering that has become a prison. Step one is simply to pick that specific memory.
Just isolate it.
Yes. Step two is to sit in your current physical space, feeling your presence in the now, and intentionally retell the story of that business failure. But here is the strict rule. You are only allowed to focus on what you learned, how you grew, or the specific strengths that emerged.
That's difficult because the mind wants to default to the cache trauma. The mind wants to say, yeah, but I lost my savings.
Of course it does. But you have to discipline the focus. You don't deny you lost the savings, but you change the focal point of the perception.
So what does that sound like?
You tell the story like this. That business failure taught me incredibly harsh but necessary lessons about cash flow that I couldn't have learned any other way. The embarrassment forced me to separate my self-worth from my financial output. It redirected me away from an industry I actually hated and pushed me toward a path that suits my natural self.
I see the difference. You aren't putting a happy face sticker on a bankruptcy. You are commanding your retrocognitive intelligence to drop the connection to the victim probable past and align with the catalyst probable past. You are rendering a new reality from the code.
You are literally rewiring the neural pathways. The nervous system stops firing the stress response when you think of the business and starts firing a response of competence and resilience. You have changed the past's influence on your present.
That covers the time aspect. What about the identity aspect? How do we stop performing the idealized self?
That brings us to technique two. Spot the mask. Your only mission with this technique is to notice just one thing you do today strictly because you think you should.
Oh man, the shoulds dictate everything. We don't even notice them. It's like agreeing with a coworker's strategy in a meeting because you want to appear like a team player, even though you know the strategy is flawed.
Yes, or dressing in a way that feels incredibly stiff and stifling just because it fits the cultural definition of professional. Or holding back a goofy, quirky comment on a first date because you think you should appear sophisticated and mysterious.
So when you catch yourself in one of these micro expressions of the mask, what is the immediate action? Do you have to suddenly stand up and shout your truth in the meeting?
Not necessarily. If it feels too risky to change the behavior immediately, you don't have to. The power is in the internal pause. When you catch the should, pause internally and ask yourself, what would my natural self do or say right here?
Just noticing the gap.
Simply noticing the gap breaks the hypnosis. It creates a moment of spontaneous illumination, which is exactly what Chapter 10 is about. You begin to consciously realize that the mask is an object you are holding up to your face, not the face you were actually born with.
And then what?
The more you notice the gap, the more you will naturally begin to trust the impulses of the natural self. I want to anchor this entire discussion with an exact quote from the unknown reality. Listen to the power in this statement. You are not at the mercy of the past, for the past is as plastic as the future.
As plastic as the future. Your history is clay in your hands today. That really synthesizes everything. The past isn't concrete, it's wet clay waiting for your present touch.
Exactly.
The mask isn't your face, it's just a heavy performance you can put down. And the point of power, the only place your hands can shape the clay or drop the mask is right now.
To make sure this doesn't remain a purely intellectual exercise, we are issuing a formal 24-hour challenge to you, the listener. A two-part challenge based on these exact techniques.
Okay, part 1. Catch your story. Over the next 24 hours, your job is to become a highly attentive observer of your own internal dialogue. Catch yourself in the exact microsecond you use a past event to justify why you can't do something today.
I can't speak up in this meeting because last time I did, I was ignored.
Right. Or, I can't try that creative hobby because a teacher in middle school told me I had no talent. When that thought arises, don't judge it. Just catch it.
And part 2 is the pivot. In that exact moment, drop the idealized self's mask. Stand firmly in your present point of power. Reframe the story right then and there.
In real time.
Shift the focus strictly to the strength or insight you gained from that past event. And then act from the newly uncovered natural self. Do the thing you told yourself you couldn't do, and do it as the real, unpolished you.
I want to leave you with a final, somewhat mind-bending question to mull over as you do this exercise. We've talked extensively about simultaneous time. The idea that your past, present, and future selves all exist simultaneously in the spacious present. If that is literally true, what if the future you, a probable self who has already dropped the mask, who is already living freely, boldly, and joyfully as their natural self, what if that future you is reaching back through time right now? Oh, I love this. What if they are providing the exact intuition, the exact sudden urge you need today to take off the mask and change your past?
So what does this all mean? It is a beautiful application of retrocognitive and precognitive intelligence. It means you are not doing this alone. You are supported by an entire universe of your own consciousness, reaching across time, waiting for you to simply be who you already are.
You are not serving a life sentence in the prison of your past. The cell door has always been open because you are the one who built it and you are the one holding the keys. Your point of power is right now. We'll see you on the next deep dive.